Well, welcome and happy Monday to you. I'm Winnie Sun, entrepreneur, mom of three, CNBC financial advisor, council member, and host, executive producer of the Modern Mom Monday program. It is a treat to be here with you. Thank you so much and happy new year. As you know, we're streaming live today and we will be monitoring your comments and questions throughout the program. So please check in and share with us where you're joining us from. We always like to know where you're coming to us from. With the new year, does it bring on a new you? So many times we're hearing this. Did you make a new list of New Year's resolutions for yourself? We'd love to hear because that's what we're going to be talking about today. Maybe to get healthier, to spend more time with your loved ones, but spend less money on Amazon. I know so many of us can definitely say that this is something that we've thought about. In fact, in a recent YouGov survey, they found that millennials by 38% are more likely than Gen Xers at 29% or baby boomers at 24% to make resolutions in the first place. And in fact, among millennials who intend to make resolutions, the most common one, believe it or not, is saving more money by 55%. Gen Xers definitely are looking for new ways to lose weight. 49% is their most popular resolution heading into 2021. And baby boomers especially focus on exercising more by a whopping 67%. Well, today we're here to talk to someone that I think a lot of you are excited to be meeting, and that is Brie. I call her amazing, but Mazin, incredible yogi, big soulful mommy influencer, just a wonderful human being. Brie, welcome to the show. How are you?
I am amazing, and thank you so much for having me.
Oh, we are so excited to have you here because we're here to talk about staying healthy, being well, and of course, having a positive attitude into the new year. Brie, a lot has been going on. I think many of us can agree we've been through a lot this year. But how are you getting through the new year so far? How you been?
So far, so good. I mean, we're not too far in yet, but I've been blessed to be able to share my passion of teaching yoga, not just virtually, but we've gotten creative with doing some outdoor classes as well in our community. We're lucky here in Florida.
You are very lucky in Florida. I mean, that's one thing that I think many of us agree that like you can't really do yoga in all parts. I know like one of my really good friends is in Michigan. That's going to be a little tougher, right?
Yeah, I would say so.
But one thing which is really fun, because we talked about this before we jumped on the call here, is that you've been teaching yoga out of your home for people all over the country, right?
That's right. I had people this morning log in from Canada and up north where the weather's really cold. And what we did is we created a community where we can check in with each other and practice together, just as if you were in a class setting. So that way it doesn't matter what the outdoor weather is like, as long as your temperature inside is warm.
Right. As long as the inside is warm, then you're
Hmm.
good for sure. I think, this is one thing I will say. A lot of people have been talking about getting healthy and, getting fit and juggling it all. So I'd love if you could start with sharing a little bit of background, because I think many people might first say, well, look at Brie. She doesn't need to worry about any of these resolutions that you talked about, right? She's got it all in place. But tell us about what your day looks like and really more about you.
Okay, thank you. So just like you, I'm a mama of three. My oldest will be 8 next month, and my baby boy is only 2. And then I have a middle one who's 6 years old. So my day is really full. Fortunately, they are back to school, so my mornings are crazy and hectic getting them off. And then as soon as they're off and safe, that's my time to kind of check in and stay sane, mind, body, soul with yoga. And then just like most moms, right? The moment they come home, it's homework time and it's dinner time and then it's bath time and reading time and boom, our day is done. So fortunately with the yoga, I'm able to teach virtually now as well. So that way I'm able to share my passion with others, but then when my kids get home, still be fully present and mom first.
I love that. I actually just talked to a mama today and she said the same thing. She says, you know what, this year, 2021, it's all about balance. And it's importance of, I'm okay that I'm not working full speed ahead in this area of my life because my I definitely want to spend more time with my kids, and that really, I think that many moms and parents in general, that hits home, right? There's a lot of things that have come with the pandemic and during this very heated, challenging time. But one of the silver linings is realizing, putting things into perspective. So I'd love for you to start with that. When were you introduced to yoga? Like, how did you start? Where did this come from?
Absolutely. So back in the day, in my like high school and college days, I was very active. I did spinning. In fact, I even taught kickboxing, and I was certified in Johnny G, living in New York City. And I always liked that intensity of the working out, running, etc. And then I moved down to South Florida. This is my roots. And a friend of mine invited me to her birthday party and was like, come, it's this yoga. I'm like, I don't know. I'm not into the whole stretching and like chill meditation. It's just not my cup of tea. She's like, just come. You've got nothing to lose. I was like, okay, it's your birthday. And within that hour, there was something that happened. It was a style called Vinyasa. There are several kinds of yoga, which I hope we can talk about a little bit more. But the one that I was drawn to is where you sync your breath with your movement. So it's actually a workout. You get your cardiovascular in because your heart rate gets up, but you also stretch and tone your muscles. And there was something about the music and flowing together that I was hooked after my first class. And I was intrigued to learn more. And not just so much what it does for you physically, but more so there were moments in the practice where I wasn't thinking about my to-do list, or I wasn't playing back something that transpired in my past. And it was just this aha moment of being grounded and being like, wow, I can like actually turn my brain off and connect mind, body, and soul. And from that moment on, I wanted to learn more, eventually getting my teacher training. And I did that 10 years ago. So now I feel like it's a ripple effect. I threw the pebble in the water, and now I'm able to teach others the secret formula of just how to be positive. It's kind of like the laws of attraction and the secret and the whole philosophy. Whatever we think about is going to expand. So we might as well think positive if that's what we want more of.
I love that, because sometimes when you talk about yoga, I mean, I'm with you. I'm a big kickboxer. That was like the thing I loved. I loved a Zumba because the music was uplifting and fast, and you can just get in. You become a sweaty mess, but you feel like you accomplished something, right?
That's
and
right.
When you traditionally think of yoga, you think of like very relaxed. You think of meditation, and for a lot of working parents and a lot of parents in general, your life is like so like crazy, right? And many of us are don't have the luxury of the kids going away for school. My kids are certainly downstairs. I would love for you to share how yoga has changed your life.
Absolutely. So one of my favorite things about the practice is every time you roll out your mat, you can create an intention. So almost like a New Year's resolution, but maybe your intention that day is to find peace or to find balance or to work on a pose that you've been struggling with. So you have this opportunity to kind of check in, like, where am I today? How did I sleep? What's going on in my life? Because for a while, when our kids were doing the homeschool virtually as well, it was hard to find that time. But when mommy takes care of herself, mommy's going to be better for the whole family. And my kids know that. And I let them watch me. And if I have to pause and stop and go help them with something, I will. Because the truth is we're all doing the best we can during this pandemic with what we got. It's not easy. It transformed my life in every possible way, because a lot of the things that you learn on your yoga mat, you then take with you as you go on through your day. For example, you fall out of a pose and you notice you're beating yourself up. Why? Well, that's your ego, right? Your ego wants to perfect everything. And then you take a deeper look. Does it really matter that I fall? I mean, maybe if I laugh at myself and try again, there's something to be said. And then that stays with you so that when a relationship is a little bit rocky or you have a confrontation that's a little bit tricky and you're not really sure how to deal with it, you're like, okay, well, how did I deal with that on my mat? And if you can metaphorically take that lesson with you off your mat, it will change your life too.
I love that. I love how you said that. That frames it so well. So because a lot of parents out there are feeling like if they do something for themselves and they're being selfish, right? I've heard that a lot. I feel like I just read an article about this, a woman who, really honed in on getting healthier and losing weight and whatnot. She's like, and then at first I had to get through the fact that I felt so guilty being away from my children. But I love how you frame it this way, that, you can actually become more mindful. You can make better decisions, since once you're off your mat, you actually can translate into better success and more successful relationship with your children. That's really, really key. And actually, it's almost like yoga is helping you get to know yourself better, right? By having that peace, and you're getting a workout. Seems pretty efficient, Brie. I like that.
Absolutely. I mean, and everyone takes something different.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about this a little bit. I'd love for you to talk about some reasons why you find that are so significant about yoga. Main reasons that you find this to be important, and maybe, I think the great thing about this is we're getting to know you, the instructor, right? Because so many times we'll go to the gym or we'll see a class and we don't know anything behind the instructor. So you think this instructor might judge me, or this one might not relate to me. Maybe it's, someone who doesn't have children or whatever. But this is giving us so much more mindful of who you are and the instructor that you are too.
That's right. It's just like any other teacher, that you're going to have ones that you resonate with and you're drawn to. Something that I really try to do is be vulnerable. And I kind of like just talk like, this was what my morning looked like. Tell me what's going on with you. And we kind of break bread together. And once we expose ourselves and take down that armor, it's a lot easier to relate to each other. So that's one thing I definitely try to do in my classes. But there are so many different types of yoga as well. There are some people who are only looking for the stretch or for the relaxation. So you're able to find a teacher that you connect with in that way as well, and maybe get what you need in that particular practice. Another benefit too is when you're present in the yoga practice, you learn how to be present in the way that you do life, right? So be mindful while you eat. Or you realize that, like, if you eat super heavy right before you practice, that's probably not going to feel good when you're doing all those twists and working on that digestive system. So maybe you want to incorporate a little bit healthier foods. And you realize then all of a sudden you're sleeping better because you feel better, because you're providing yourself with better nutrients. So it's kind of this like snowball effect that you start small. Even if you don't complete a full class 100%, you do 60, 70%. Okay, well, you showed up. That's the hardest part. And then from there, you're like, well, I'm feeling really good. I'm going to go call this person, or I'm going to take care of this task I've been putting off. So you realize that one small change can really significantly change a huge something in your life. And for each individual, that's different. And for each day, that's different too. There are some times that you'll come to a community class, be it virtually or in person, and you'll have an intention, and then you realize that something else comes along. And you just have to welcome it in. And I think that no one has ever regretted going to a yoga class and practicing. You always feel amazing after.
Those are powerful words, Brie. I'm loving this. All right. So I see Joshua joining us from YouTube, as well as Carlos is on Facebook. Hank from Memphis is on YouTube as well. Hank, it's so great to see you on my second show. And I see, we see Cecilia from LinkedIn as well. This is great because, to be honest with you, I always had this perception that yoga honestly was going to bore me to pieces. But I'm actually really inspired now. I feel like I'm going to definitely need to try this. I would love to do a survey for those of you who are with us live. If you could tell me, have you ever tried yoga? And as Brie had mentioned, there's different types of yoga. Maybe you could share with us which one you started with. And Brie, maybe you could talk about this. Or for those people who are watching, those of us who are watching right now and learning from you, do you feel like this is the type of yoga for this type of person? This is the type of yoga for that kind of person? You have sort of your prescription notepad, if you will?
That is an amazing question. So for someone who's like really type A, you probably don't want a lot of structure in the yoga because this is going to be your place to play and be creative. So I would definitely recommend a vinyasa practice for that, because vinyasa is kind of like a dance class in the sense that there's never going to be a class that's the same. There's different sequencing, and as you move and breathe through the poses, you're flowing. Versus someone who's kind of like scattered and all over the place, you probably want a lot of structure. Maybe you would prefer a type of yoga like hot yoga or Bikram, where you know exactly what's coming next. Even Ashtanga yoga, there's a lot of history behind that. And that way, you know that this pose is going to happen and then this pose is going to happen. And you can actually watch your growth between the poses. Perhaps you're coming from an injury, you have a spine, a hip, something that's going on. Maybe you're going to want restorative yoga where you actually use props that will help you get deeper into the connective tissue and fascia. The particular yoga I taught this morning is known as yin. And sometimes you hold poses for 2 to 5 minutes at a time. So it goes beyond the muscular energy and you open the energy channels in the body as well. So there is something out there for everyone. And I will say that now that I found the yoga practice, I don't need to run, do kickboxing or spinning. This has become my way of exercise across the boards. And I am in better shape now than I was in my wedding. And it's all because of the yoga.
I love that. Well, let me ask you this. So many people who are watching today are probably feeling like, okay, this is great. So where do I start? Right. So you talked about virtual. Obviously, of course, I know many people miss going to the gym, right? Miss seeing their instructors. And then there's a whole bunch of programming on YouTube and everything else. And then even like Apple with the whole Apple Watch and everything else. We know we want to do it. But let's sort of break through the noise. If they want to start yoga, they want to try something, where do you suggest they sort of get their first experience at?
I think YouTube is a perfect way because you could do a search. And for example, you could type in 20-minute vinyasa. What's she talking about? And you can actually pull up all different teachers and you can check out ones that you resonate with. Same thing. If you're really into understanding the form, there's a particular yoga called Iyengar. So you could type that in on a search bar, even on Google, and see what videos. There's so much free access out there. And as you deepen your understanding and you resonate with teachers, then you're like, okay, where else do they teach? Can I find them? Can I do a private through Zoom? Because through Zoom, then I can see the student as well as the student seeing me. So I could say, you know what? Push your right foot forward, draw your left hip back, really take a deep breath where I could see the sides of your body expand, almost like you're blowing air into a balloon, or relax the shoulders. You know, we spend so much of our time hunched over in social media, working, Zoom. Like it's important to just like draw the shoulders up, take it back. You'll feel your collarbones broaden, the crown of the head reaches up towards the sky, and you can already feel it takes consciousness more than effort.
I love that. I love that. So basically YouTube's a great place to start for sure.
I think so.
And that's actually great. I think many of us would feel less intimidated too, because on YouTube, you can figure out what works for you and what doesn't work for you. So that by the time, I do think a lot of people get very intimidated when they go to try any new exercise, like, am I going to need what gear or whatever? But, I think virtual makes it a lot easier. Talk to me about this. We talked a little about kids, we talked about exercise. And I know that you feel that it's important to share what your yoga practice with your kids. So share a little bit about that. I think a lot of us, especially who are parents or juggling distance learning, we do feel in some ways it's sad, right? Our kids they don't have recess anymore. They can't do everything that little kids are supposed to be doing. How do you kind of merge that discussion, and what's your perspective on this?
I feel that if I learned yoga when I was a kid, it probably could have given me some tools that I could have taken with me as I grew and as I went on to college and into the real world. So I feel like I'm planting seeds with children now, especially my trio, because they're seeing that, okay, if I'm feeling a little anxious, or there's a lot in the subconscious that's going on right now, and their little minds, like they know there's a lot going on. They know that they used to learn one way and now they learn another way. For those children who are back to school, everybody's in masks. They may not have ever even seen their teacher's face. It's a weird time for them. So you give them these breathing tools, you give them these balancing tools, and it's almost like they can revisit them and have this inner knowledge. So as they continue on in this chapter and beyond, they now know, okay, if I feel a little uneasy, I'm going to pause what I'm doing and I'm going to take an inhale through my nose. I'm going to hold that breath. And then I'm going to exhale, and I'm going to do that 3 times. And then I'm going to refocus on what the task at hand is. And something as simple as that could really shift that moment for the child.
So Brie, have you taught classes for kids? Because I feel like you would do great with a mommy and me class or daddy
It's
and me
funny that
class.
you, yeah, it's funny that you said, so I taught prenatal yoga, which is really cool because all the moms that meet while they're pregnant practicing now have their children at the same age. But I think that it takes a very different teacher to teach the children yoga because I'm a little more spiritual, which you probably are gathering, like with some of my answers, right? But in the end of the day, like kids like to be silly and they want to be fun and they want to make a star and they want to think of more like visual, I would say, cues. So I think that like once the child is a little bit older, like your age children would probably be do great in my classes. But I think for maybe 7 and under, they need a little more of a silly approach as opposed to spiritual and structure, just for my understanding. But look, sometimes these kids are wiser than we give them credit for. They might be ready to take on, this kind of practice as well. So I think it just depends on the child if they're into dance versus karate versus sports, to kind of figure the teacher that would work best for something like that.
I love that. I do know that my kids, especially, are part of their peak. I know they're doing some yoga. I think it's like you said, it's to sort of learn how to breathe and deal with stress, right? And
Mm-hmm.
find ways to deal with some of the challenges that a lot of our kids are going through today. I love this discussion. Let me ask you this: is there anything else, Brie, that you think that our viewers should know about you, about yoga? What can you share with us? And of course, I want to, from that second part, of course, you're going to have to share with us how people can sort of stay in touch with you as well.
Absolutely. So, just something to share is I've worked with a lot of athletes as well. And even if you incorporate the practice like once a week to whatever you're doing, even like your Zumba classes that you mentioned, I think that the range of motion and the concentration you'll pick up in the yoga practice is going to enhance everything else you do. So, whether you're a golfer or a tennis player, no matter what, just taking the practice, maybe dedicating a half hour, an hour, whatever you can work out in your schedule, it should enhance everything else that you do. And listen, you might try it and be like, I'm going to check out another style, or I'm going to see if I can resonate. Because to me, I think it's all about the playlist, right? When you go to Zumba, you want like a good song that's going to like all of a sudden loosen you up and bring you back in that moment. The same thing with yoga. So that's what I would recommend as well.
I love that. Okay, so where can people learn more about you? And do you have any classes coming up that we might want to share?
So I've been doing virtual classes. You can check me out on Instagram at Florida Yoga Mama and on Facebook as well, Florida Yoga Mama. And then my website is floridayogamama.com. Something else that I do that's really cool is I have these like day retreats. So for example, if you're ready to like dive a little bit deeper into the yoga, you can come join for like an escape, and you can come and surround yourself with like-minded people. And we do this not only virtually, but in person as well.
I love that. And I know you were telling me how, in Florida, you can actually do these in person and the weather actually allows you to be outside, because I know you're being very mindful of the pandemic and whatnot.
Yes. Right. We do our temperature checks, we sign the waivers, we make sure that everyone is comfortable. But virtually is a great way, especially if you're newer to the practice and you feel like a little intimidated to like put yourself out there. You can totally do it in the privacy of your own home. No one has to see what you look like. You just listen to the cues and watch the visuals. And I think you're going to be really happy that you did.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, sis. Thank you so much, Brie, for sharing so much of your knowledge on yoga. I know many of us, like myself included, this is something that we've thought about for quite some time. And maybe, just maybe, this new year, this is something that you want to try. And a huge thank you to Mother Mom for hosting our show. And thank you, all of you, for being here, joining us as we talk with real parents and families, sharing some meaningful journeys here on the show. Be well. We are looking forward to seeing you very soon. But before we let you go, Brie, where can people follow you most? I know you're very big on Instagram. What other places should they follow you at?
Yeah, I think Instagram is the perfect place because I share in stories what's going on and I always share my classes. And one other thing I wanted to teach you is we say in yoga, you bring your hands to your heart center and we bow, we say namaste. And that means light in me honors the light and recognizes the light in you. So no matter what your religious background is, if you have one or not, we can all just agree that there's some bigger force out there that we see the light.
Yes, and we can agree on that. And we agree that we can be grateful and we can be kind to one another. And thank you so much, Brie, for bringing your positive energy as we start the new year. I feel like this is a great thing and a great way for us to take into January. Take care now and see you.
Namaste. Bye.
Bye.